108 men moved into her house. They ate her herds and drank her cellars dry. And every day they waited for her to give up and marry one of them. This went on for years. She had no army, no husband, a son too young to hold a sword, and a kingdom that had already written her off. She beat all of them. The poem is called the Odyssey. It is named after the wrong person. Start where she starts. Her husband sails for Troy with 12 ships and every fighting man on the island. Their son is a few months old. He will not see his father's face again until he is 20. The war takes 10 years. Everyone expects that. Troy falls, the fleets go home, and the men of Ithaca do not come back. No body, no message, no ship on the horizon, just a silence that goes on for another 10 years. Under Greek law, she is not a widow. She is something with no name, a wife whose husband is neither alive nor dead, holding a throne she is not allowed to sit on. Then the suitors arrive, not one or two, 108 young noblemen from Ithaca and the islands around it, and they do not court her from a distance. They move in. Homer is precise about what that means. They occupy the great hall. They slaughter her husband's cattle and pigs by the dozen every single day for years. They drink the wine, they abuse the servants, and they sleep in the house. Her son watches it happen and can do nothing, because a boy who objects to 108 armed men does not live to become a man. This is not romance. It is a siege conducted from inside the walls, and the plan is simple. Eat everything he owns until she has nothing left to defend and no choice but to pick one of them. She cannot refuse them outright. Refusing 108 armed men in your own hall gets you married by force or gets your son killed. So she does something better. She agrees. She tells them she will choose a husband. She only asks for one thing first. Let her finish a funeral shroud for her husband's father, so the old man is not buried without one when his time comes. It is an unarguable request. Refusing it would be an offense against the gods and against the dead, and every man in that hall knows it. So they agree, and she starts to weave. Every day she works at the great loom where they can see her, and every night, by the light of a single lamp, she pulls the day's work back out thread by thread. The shroud never grows. She runs that trick for 3 years. 3 years of weaving in daylight and unpicking in the dark. 108 men living in her house, watching her work, and not one of them notices that the cloth is exactly the same length it was the year before. Think about what that costs, not the cleverness, the endurance. She does this every night alone for 1,000 nights, knowing that the day the cloth is finished is the day she loses everything. It ends the way these things end. One of her own maids tells them. The suitors catch her at the loom in the middle of the night, with the shroud coming apart in her hands, and the game is finished. They force her to complete it. The deadline she spent 3 years pushing away arrives anyway. Her son is grown now, and angry, and still outnumbered 50 to 1, and she is out of moves. Now here is the part the films leave out. While she is doing this, we know exactly where her husband is. He spends a year with the witch Circe, not a prisoner, a guest in her bed with his surviving crew waiting on the beach, then 7 years on an island with the nymph Calypso. Homer says he wept on the shore and longed for home. He also says he slept beside her every night for 7 years. Nobody weeps for Penelope on any shore. Nobody writes a poem about the 20 years she spent holding a kingdom together with a loom and a lie. He is the one who gets the epithet, the man of many turns, the great deceiver. She ran a 3-year deception under armed guard in her own home, and Homer gives her one word: circumspect. There is a scene near the end that tells you everything about how her mind works. A beggar has come to the hall. She does not know him. She tells him a dream. In the dream, she keeps 20 geese, and she loves watching them feed. An eagle drops out of the sky and kills every one of them. She stands there weeping over her dead birds. Then the eagle comes back, and it speaks to her, and it tells her it is her husband, and the geese are the men eating her house. It is about as clear as a sign from the gods gets, and she refuses it. She tells the beggar that dreams come through 2 gates. The ones that come through the gate of horn are true. The ones that come through the gate of ivory are lies sent to fool you, and she says she is fairly sure hers came through the ivory. 20 years of false hope have taught her not to believe good news, even when a god hands it to her directly. which is exactly why she tests him instead. She has him brought to her, and she questions him. She asks what her husband was wearing the last time he was seen 20 years ago. The beggar answers correctly. He describes a brooch she fastened herself, and she does not fall into his arms. Read that scene again. She has been lied to by 20 years of men arriving with stories about her husband, and she has learned exactly what that is worth. The next morning, she announces the contest. Her husband's great bow, 12 axe heads in a line, and she will marry whoever can string it and put an arrow through all 12. She chooses that test. Nobody suggests it to her, and she chooses the one feat in the world that exactly one living man can perform. If the beggar is her husband, she has just handed him a weapon in a room full of his enemies. If he is not, no one wins, and she buys another day. It is the best move available to her, and she makes it before anyone tells her who he is. And here is the detail almost nobody knows. While the killing happens, Penelope is asleep. Athene puts her into a deep sleep upstairs and holds her there through the whole of it. She proposed the contest. She chose the weapon and the day, and she sleeps through the consequence. She wakes to a hall full of bodies and a house that is hers again. By that evening, the suitors are dead, all 108 of them, and the man is standing in her hall saying he is her husband. She still does not believe him, so she sets one more test, and this one is aimed at him alone. In front of the whole household, she turns to a servant and calmly gives an order. Move the great bed out of the bedchamber and make it up for our guest. And he breaks. He shouts. He demands to know who cut his bed, because that bed cannot be moved by anyone. He built the chamber around a living olive tree and carved the bed from its rooted trunk, and only 3 people alive have ever known that. That is the moment she accepts him, not the scar, not the story. She laid a trap, and the cleverest man in Greek literature walked straight into it in front of witnesses. He crossed the world and lost every man who followed him. She never left the house, never lost the kingdom, raised his son, and handed him back a throne that was still his to sit on. The bed is carved from a tree that is still in the ground, the only thing in the whole poem that never moved. So was she. 20 years, 108 men, and one woman who never once made a mistake. Tell me she is not the hero of this story.